back to the channel. So yesterday you guys saw me take a practice assessment for security operations analyst, and bits and bobs came back pretty decent. But today I kind of want to go through a few of the modules and start going through the Learn collection that's available on the Microsoft Learn site. So today we're going to go through the module for mitigating threats using Microsoft 365 Defender. So let's dive in. All right, so through this learning path, and each of the Microsoft certifications has its own learning path. So in this learning path, we're going to be introduced to Microsoft 365 threat protection. We're going to mitigate threats using 365 Defender. We're going to protect identities with Azure AD Identity Protection. And we're going to remediate risks with Microsoft 365 or Defender for Office. And we're going to safeguard our environment with Microsoft Defender for Identity. So today, this morning, I'm probably going to try to get through the first two, right? So get through the introduction and then mitigate threats with Microsoft 365 Defender. Let's go. All right, so in this section, introduction to Microsoft 365 threat protection. We're going to understand 365 Defender solution. We're going to understand 365 Defender's role in a modern SOC. So even though you see that I've done them all before, obviously I'm not too familiar with them. I haven't looked at them in a long time. So Microsoft 365 Defender has integrated that protection solution suite that detects malicious activity across email, endpoints, applications, and identity. Solutions provide complete attack chain compromise story that enables complete understanding of the threat and enables you to remediate, protect your organization from future attacks. In this ample attack chain graphic example, the attacker's activity visible to each Microsoft 365 Defender product. So here's the Defender across the attack chain. This diagram comes from what's called the Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture PowerPoint, and I'll have that down in the slide note in the notes. So we have Defender for Office 365 can tell phishing email. Somebody opens an attachment, clicks URL, browses the website. These are all what they categorize as external threats. They also have Defender for IoT or OT, right? IoT device exploitation, disrupt OT environment. Then they have Defender for endpoint exploitation and installation, command control. And then they have what's called Microsoft Defender for cloud. They have Azure AD Identity Protection, brute force account or use stolen account credentials. Defender for cloud apps, attacker access to sensitive data information, exfiltration of data. Defender for identity, user's account is compromised, attacker attempts lateral movement, attacker collects reconnaissance and configuration data. The domain is compromised, privileged account compromised, right? Exfiltrates data. And then there's Microsoft Sentinel, which goes all across it. And then there's this category of insider risks. So history of violations, distracted and careless, disgruntled or disenchanted, subject to stressors. All are leading indicators, right? And insider risk management. Insider has access to sensitive data, anomalous activity detected, data leakage, potential sabotage. All that is part of the attack chain as it's known. And so our job as a security operations analyst, if we work for a company that's implementing Microsoft 365 Defender solutions, you need to understand how extended detection and response, or XDR, combines signals from endpoints, identity, email, applications to detect and mitigate threats. So let's explore XDR and its response use cases. So detection of threat. This scenario depicts a case where Microsoft Defender for Endpoint detects a malicious payload which could come from anywhere, including personal email, USB. The risk of this is devices can be affected by personal email, USB, and other vectors. Mitigation. We want to rapidly detect and clean all managed devices, email, and other resources across environment and customers. So if we look at the diagram, this also comes from that cybersecurity reference architecture. A user opens an attachment from personal email or from the insert USB, and both of them have malicious payload installed. Microsoft Defender sees that, right, and disables user access from device. It shares the telemetry and remediates the infected endpoints. And it shares intelligence now to Microsoft Threat Intelligence Service, right? That's Microsoft Threat Intelligence Service collects what's called signals from all of its endpoints across the world. Well, right now it's collecting almost 43 billion signals every day. And then it sends that to Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Now it's searching the company email and remove attachments from all affected mailboxes. So if it sees that attachment anywhere, It's going to remove it from everybody and block the attachment from future attacks. So the victims received a malicious email on their personal account, which isn't protected, or USB drive, right? Attachments open, the malware infects the computer, the user unaware that an attack has taken place, but Microsoft Defender for Endpoint detects the attack, raises an alert to the Security Operations Center, and provides details about the threat to the security team. It disables that user's access from the device while infected. MDE communicates to Microsoft Intune that risk level on this endpoint has changed. Intune marks the account in Azure Active Directory is non-compliant with the organization's policy, and conditional access then blocks that user based on it. To remediate it, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, or MDE, from here on, remediates the threat either via automated resolution, a security analyst approval, or automated remediation, or analyst manual investigation of threat. MDE also remediates the threat across your entire enterprise and across our Microsoft MDE customers by adding information on this attack to the Microsoft Threat Intelligence System. So not only did you help your actual organization or your customer, in the case, you helped every Microsoft customer, because now that lives in what's called Microsoft Threat Intelligence. And so we share intelligence and we restore access. Restoring access, once the affected devices have been remediated, MDE signals Intune to change the device risk status in Azure AD conditional access, then allows access to enterprise resources, remediates the threat variants in Microsoft Defender for Office. Threat signals in Microsoft Threat Intelligence are used by Microsoft tools securing other parts of your organization's attack surface. MDO, or Microsoft Defender for Office, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud use these signals to detect and remediate threats in email, office collaboration, and more. So from when the previous graphic, when the user device was still compromised, right? So this is the suspend access during compromise. Malware on the endpoint enables the adversary to steal damaged files and systems. Mitigation, we temporarily suspend the user access until endpoint is cleaned. So here we go. So clean computer and emails. Computer is marked remediated. It sends the signals to Intune and Azure AD, or Microsoft Entra as is now known. It goes to the cloud vendor, SaaS apps, Office 365, and on-prem access. All the access is then restored. When it was restricted, right, conditional access knows about the device risk because Microsoft Defender for Endpoint notified Intune, which then updated the compliance status of the device in Azure AD. During this time, the user is restricted from accessing corporate resources. This applies to all new resource requests and will block any current access to resources that support continuous access evaluation, otherwise known as CAE. People will still be able to do general internet productivity and research, YouTube, Wikipedia, and anything else that doesn't require corporate authentication, but won't have access to corporate resources. So what's really cool there is that you're cutting off access to basically your company's data, but the user can still effectively do things. They can do Zoom meetings, right? They have another way, right? But they just can't access that corporate link. So they can do call-ins, right? But they can't access the corporate structure, which is really nice. Then when the access is restored, once the threat has been remediated and cleaned up, MDE triggers Intune to update the Azure AD and conditional access restores the user's access to corporate resources. This mitigates risk to the organization by ensuring that attackers who may be in control of these devices can access corporate resources while minimizing the impact on users' productivity to minimize disruption of business processes. So hopefully that made sense, but I think a real key here that we learned is through Defender for Endpoint and then through Azure AD and its conditional access, we can basically cut a user's device off from the corporate infrastructure through conditional access and through compliance with Intune. All right, and so we're going to go through one more unit and understand Microsoft 365 Defender and the Security Operations Center. So we have about 4 more units until we have what's called the case study at the end. So the following graphic provides an overview of how Microsoft 365 Defender and Microsoft Sentinel are integrated in a modern Security Operations Center. So this one also comes with that cybersecurity reference architecture. It's called Modern Security Operations. So we have a broad enterprise view, which is a correlated unified incident view. We have case management. All that lives in what's called a SIM, or Security Information and Event Management. So Sentinel has competitors out there like Splunk and QRadar. All do basically this. They correlate unified incidents for view in a security operations environment. And inside that SIM, you hunt and investigate the platform with automation and orchestration, including machine learning, user entity behavior analytics, and the security data lake. You align it to the mission, right? Responsiveness, mean time to knowledge, mean effectiveness, mean time to resolution. Right? So you always want to align to the mission and can keep improving. Expert assistance, enabling an analyst with scarce skills. Incident response recovery assistance, manage detection and response. And all these go up through a SOAR, right? So we have deep insights, actionable alerts derived from deep knowledge of assets and advanced analytics, which come from extended detection and response, or XDR, right? So that's our network, our infrastructure and applications, our platform as a service, or PaaS, our OT and IoT environment, our identity access management, or IAM, endpoint and mobile devices, modern and SaaS applications, and information and data. So the security operations model, functions, and tools. While assignment of responsibilities to individual people and teams vary based on organization size and other factors, security operations are comprised of several distinct functions. Each function/team has a primary focus area and also must collaborate closely with other functions and outside teams to be effective. The diagram depicts the model with fully staffed teams. In smaller organizations, these functions are often combined into a single role or team performed by IT operations for technical roles, or performed as a temporary function by leadership delegates for incident management. So let's take a look. So we have what's called threat intelligence and partner teams. So Hunt, which is tier 3, proactively hunting and advanced forensics and detection and tuning. So they're constantly out there looking for things in the environment that are attacking. They consistently looking for new threat vectors. They're doing advanced forensics, and it's been escalated to them. They're doing some detection tuning. So they're tuning our systems to provide better and correlated alerts so we're not getting overloaded. Then there's incident management. There's investigation, right? Advanced analysis and remediation. It's usually tier 2, high complexity, escalations, multi-stage incidents, critical assets, and monitoring known campaigns. Then there's triage, or tier 1, right? High volume incidents, high true positive, consistent, predictable, right? And then there's automation. We want our automation to do a bit before it even gets to triage, so we're not getting a bunch of benigns or false positives. And we're going to go through those teams. We'll start with reactive alerts, which begins with automation, right? Near real-time resolution of known incident types of automation. Well-defined attacks that the organization has seen many times. We train Sentinel to learn that, right, through machine learning and automation. Triage, which is also known as tier 1. Triage analysts focus on rapid remediation of a high volume of well-known incidents that still require quick human judgment. These are often tasked with approving automated remediation workflows and identifying anything anomalous or interesting that warrants escalation, consultation with investigation. Right? Key learnings for triage and automation: 90% true positive. We recommend, right, good quality of standard, 90% true positive for any alerts. Alert ratio: in Microsoft's experience from our cyber defense operations center, the XDR alerts produce most of the high quality alerts, with the remainders coming from user reported devices, classic log query based alerts, and other sources. Automation is a key enabler for triage teams that helps empower these analysts and reduce the burden of manual effort. For example, provide automated investigation and proper human review before approving remediation sequence. Tool integration, right? So one of the most powerful time-saving technologies that improves time to remediation in the Microsoft Cyber Defense Operations Center is the integration of XDR tools together into Microsoft 365 Defender. So analysts have a single console for endpoint, email, identity, and more. It enables analysts to rapidly discover and clean up attacker, phishing emails, malware, and compromised accounts before they can do damage. These teams can't maintain their high speed of resolution for all types of technology in certain areas, so they keep their focus narrow on a few technical areas or scenarios. Most often, this is on user productivity like email, endpoint AV alerts, versus EDR that goes into investigations and first response for user reports. So the investigation incident management tier, right? They serve as escalation points for issues from triage. So if triage needs further clarification, it's a multi-stage incident, right? It's going to go up to the tier 2. And it directly monitors alerts that indicate more sophisticated attacker that trigger behavioral alerts, special case alerts related to business critical assets, and monitoring for ongoing attack campaigns. Proactively, this team also periodically reviews the triage team alerts queue and proactively hunt using XDR tools in span time. This team provides deeper investigation into a lower volume of more complex attacks, often multi-stage attacks conducted by human attack operators. The team pilots new/unfamiliar alert types to document processes for triage team and automation, often including alerts generated by Defender for Cloud on hosted applications, virtual machines, containers, Kubernetes, SQL databases. Incident management. This team takes on non-technical aspects of managing incidents, including coordination with other teams like communications, legal, leadership, and other business stakeholders. Okay, it's important for other teams to know what's going on inside of incidents, right? Whether it's a single user, application, virtual machine, right? Everyone needs to know what's going on, so we need incident management. And then we have hunt and incident management, right? So it's a multidisciplinary team focused on identifying attackers that may have slipped through the reactive detections and handling major business impacting events. They hunt, right? This team proactively hunts for undetected threats, assists with escalations, and advanced forensics for reactive investigations, and they refine the alerts and automation. This team operates in more of a hypothesis-driven model than a reactive alert model, also where red purple teams connect with security operations. How it comes together. Right, so here's a common way. Right, so you have triage. Analyst claims a malware alert from a queue and investigates. While most triage cases are rapidly remediated and closed, this time the analyst observes that malware may require more involved and advanced remediation, for example, device isolation and cleanup. Triage escalates the case to the investigation analyst tier 2, who takes the lead for investigation. The triage team has the option to stay involved and learn more. The investigation team may use Microsoft Sentinel or another SIEM for broader context. Investigation verifies investigation conclusions or digs further into it and proceeds with remediation, closes case. Later, tier 3, right, the hunt team may notice this case while reviewing closed incidents to scan for commodities or anomalies worth digging into, detections that may be eligible for auto remediation, if there's more similar incidents that may have a common root cause, and other potential process tool or improvements in one case. Tier 3 reviewed the case, found that the user had fallen for a tech scam. This detection with flags a potentially higher priority alert because the scammers have managed to get admin level access to an endpoint, higher risk exposure. Right? And all this goes into threat intelligence. Threat intelligence teams provide context and insights to support all of the functions using a threat intelligence platform in larger organizations. This could include many different facets: reactive technical research for active incidents, proactive technical research into attacker groups, attack trends, high profile attacks, emerging techniques, etc. Strategic analysis, research, and insights to inform business and technical processes and priorities. All right, so I think threat intelligence is really cool because it allows you to use your research skills, allows you to feed your community and your organization and other organizations like yours with information on what's currently going on. Think we're about to go back to school, so there might be some back to school attacks, right? Might be attacks on teachers, right? Who are sending lots of emails. So just learning about what's currently going on is really huge. So let's take a look into the Microsoft Security Graph. So Microsoft Graph provides a unified programmability model that you can use to access data in 365, Windows, Enterprise Mobility, and Security. You can use the data in Microsoft Graph to build customized apps for your organization. The Microsoft Graph API offers a single endpoint, which is graph.microsoft.com. You can use REST APIs or SDKs to access the endpoint and build apps that support Microsoft 365 scenarios. Microsoft Graph also includes a powerful set of services that manage your user and device identity, access, compliance, and security to help protect organizations from data leakage or loss. So what do we have in Microsoft Graph? Right, we figured out it uses REST APIs, but the core services, right, for Microsoft 365 are bookings, calendar, Delve, people rarely use, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Purview, eDiscovery, Search, OneDrive, OneNote, Outlook/Exchange, People, which are your contacts, Planner, SharePoint, Teams, To-Do, and Viva Insight. Also have enterprise mobility security services like Advanced Threat Analytics, Advanced Threat Protection or ATP, Azure AD, Identity Manager, and Intune. We have Windows services, activities, devices, notifications, and universal print. And then we have Dynamics 365 Business Central services. So then we have the Microsoft Security Graph API, right? The Graph API is an intermediary service or broker, provides a single programmatic interface to connect multiple Microsoft Graph security providers, also called security providers or providers. Requests to the Microsoft Security Graph API are federated to all applicable security providers. The results are aggregated and returned to the requesting application in a common schema shown in the following diagram. All right, so you have 3 different Microsoft Security Graph providers, which are Microsoft 365, Azure, and then Microsoft partners, right? And they all live into one, right? Microsoft Graph Security API. They flow into your application. They flow in and out, right? So they flow from your applications up or from the Graph API down. right? So here's a way developers can use the security graph to build intelligent security services that integrate and correlate security alerts from multiple services. They stream alerts to security information and event management systems, SIM solutions, automatically send threat indicators to Microsoft security solutions to enable alert, block, or allow actions. Think about how that could be very useful as a SOC, right? Unlock contextual data to inform investigations, give much deeper knowledge, discover opportunities to learn from the data, and train your security solutions. Right? Automate SecOps for greater efficiency. All about that last word. We're all about being efficient and not just living to alerts. So there's two ways to use a Microsoft Graph Security API, two different versions. The REST API version 1 and the Microsoft Graph REST API beta. The beta version provides new or enhanced APIs that are still in preview status. APIs in preview status are subject to change and may break existing scenarios without notice. So for production use cases, right, for things that you're going to use for triage and for your level 1, I'd always do everything in your REST API. Your hunters that are building new can probably use beta, right? If something breaks, they're used to it. They can figure out how to fix it. They have the time. Right, so for security operation analysts, both the Graph and API versions support advanced hunting using the run hunting query method. This method includes a query in QSTO query language, KQL. I've always sucked at saying that, but this is one program language out there that if you could pick up if you've done any SQL query studies, if you've ever learned about SQL, KQL is a version. So here's an advanced hunting example in Microsoft 365 Defender, right? So it's a post, right, to the graph, Microsoft.com. It's a version 1. We're looking at the security API and we're running run hunting query. The query is device process events where initiating process file name is approximate to PowerShell.exe. We're using project to give us the timestamp, the file name, the initiating process file name, and then we're going to sort it by timestamp description. We want to limit to 2. Right, so you can use a Graph Explorer to run the hunting query. Right, we want to read more, obviously we can go look at it. Right, so we complete the module. Let's unlock the achievement. That's it. And that's it, guys. So I think the biggest thing, at least I've learned through here, is really going to consistently be about Microsoft Sentinel. And it's going to, so in here, I think learning to use the API is going to be key as I build more of my Sentinel skills. Like I'm learning more KQL, so all that's probably stuff I'm going to dive into. But I think as you learn for this reason of the test, it's going to be really important to start tying how Microsoft 365 services in the security space tie together. So we use conditional access from Azure AD to feed Intune, right, with its compliance state, right? It can go grab the device compliance. It can also change it, right? So we change the device in our endpoint violation from being compliant to not compliant. So it kicked that user completely out of our organization for security reasons, right? And once the malware was cleaned up on the device, we saw the device was remediated. We then used Azure AD's conditional access and the device compliance to flip that compliance back to incompliant, and Azure AD said, welcome back, right? So that's super important as you continue to build your skills to learn how the services tie together. So until next time, guys, that's it.